Maliciously complied when cleaning the fridge for Grandma. My grandma is a hoarder. She honestly keeps a wide mix of things she can never throw out, has not been through in years, and has no interest in going through any of it to get rid of anything. This also applies to food, and there's no acknowledgement that normal people's houses don't look like that. I say this not to embarrass my grandma or anyone else who hoards. It just sets up my story. For the most part, hoard was not that bad. I was able to walk down most hallways. I lived with her to care for her since she was over 80, and the chances of her breaking a hip or going unnoticed under a pile of hoard was possible for her as it is for many of her age. I was used to not being able to throw anything out. The packages that came out of catalogs went directly into her room. Occasionally I'd find something new in the one corner of a bedroom I got to keep, but not often. The inside fridge, which she used, was full of expired things she wouldn't throw away. I often used the garage fridge since it was emptier. One day I got my favorite command from her: clean the fridge. I got it through text, so neither of us can pretend she didn't ask me to clean the fridge. Since this Isma deserves her own season of American Horror Story without the hoarding, Grandma. She meant I needed to toss the one thing of mine she uncovered in the hoard she didn't want there. Knowing full well I couldn't get any backlash from an aunt for following the vague instructions I'd actually got, and I spent the next 2 hours filling 4 separate 13-gallon trash bags out to the trash, tossing it all out, and actually cleaning the fridge. This was one of a few reasons I was inevitably kicked out. I also made her comply with doctor's orders as her caregiver. The absolute horror that is. But this was a great day for me. There is a fridge hoarder in my family. I refuse to eat at his house. He has Easter eggs from our teens in there because they're sentimental. I was born during the Nixon administration. I don't know if at 80 plus the underlying problem was ever going to be treated. A friend's mom is a hoarder. He decided to take out one buried piece of trash every time he left her house. She'd called him the first time and yelled at him how he had no right. I was an empty yogurt cup. He thought she'd never miss it. I think she must have seen him take it. He's taken random things since with no phone call, but it's not enough to help. She will not get professional help. My mother is a food hoarder. When she was hospitalized, I removed every expired product from her fridge and stand-up freezer. I filled an entire 64-gallon garbage can. She had frozen beef from 2008 in there. My grandma was a borderline hoarder, but she and Grandpa cared for a couple elderly ladies that were wards of the state, so they were regulated by the state and their house had to comply with a certain standard to continue to care for the women and receive that minimal income. She loved yard sales and would hit good sales for stuff and just stock up on stuff because someone someday might need it, and any time anyone got close to convincing her to let go of a couple things out of the thousands, she would have something that someone needed or something that would help someone, and it would justify her keeping everything in her mind. Unfortunately, she died a few years ago and Grandpa ended up having to clean out the house before he eventually sold it and moved in with my aunt and her family. He, along with help from the family, filled like 3 of those construction site sizes dumpsters with garbage. There were a few treasures mixed in. She had a collection of sewing stuff that Mom and I took, some musical instruments, a bag of doll heads. They feature in Halloween decorations now, and other odds and ends that we decided to keep. But the vast majority of stuff was donated or trashed. My mom is a hoarder too, but she lives in a cabin with acreage, so the piles of junk got to truly massive proportions. I visited her and was able to make one clean spot in the mess. And my sister has been using that as a foothold to move things around and clean other things as possible. She's getting a new bathroom installed this week. And it's the first time in years you can walk from the front door to the back without having to climb over piles of things. I've talked about it in older comments on other threads, but I've encountered some truly horrific hoarder houses through my line of work. Fire, M's. The worst being one that nearly killed me while trying to escape aggressive dogs through hoard tunnels. Hoards give me massive anxiety now, to the point where I regularly try to purge all my belongings, and my BF has to remind me that houses are allowed to be lived in spaces with a reasonable amount of things. Oh damn. Hoarding like that is a mental illness. Is there somebody taking care of her now? Hoarders. Mother and brother are both so little space. I don't think they are the worst, but they collect so much and never get rid. My grandmother, who was the sweetest person to walk the planet, asked for me to help her clean out her pantry. Sure, Grandma, said 17-year-old me. The pantry included things that she had home canned probably while Jimmy Carter was the president of US. For reference, this takes place around year 2000-2001. This stuff looked like it was growing tendrils, fur, and other such craziness. I was going to throw away the jars. Oh no, I want to keep the jars, says she. What? Quote, yes, I want to keep the jars. Empty all the contents into these 2 buckets. Go dump them at the edge of the woods. And I'll wash the jars. But Grandma, these are gonna stink. I'll buy you new jars. Just do it please. And who can argue with Grandma? So off we go, dumping the most foul putrid things ever into an old ice cream bucket. Walked to the edge of the trees. The wind shifted and the smell of rotten nasty pickles hits my nostrils. Got sick right there. Now, 20 years later, I cannot look or smell a pickle without vomiting a little in my throat. And it's hoarding stories like this that mildly scare me. My room is filled, by mom definition, with hobby paraphernalia. And I'd rather not toss anything or haul it off to storage because I'm so ADHD that my hobbies rotate. I'll be with A and B for a few weeks before those are put into a box for a month because C, D, and E took over. At least just about all of it is actually useful. Just that due to ADHD interest, actually using any portion is rare in totality. My grandmother was a bit of a hoarder as well. Although not as bad as what you described. She would never throw anything away. But she was very generous and would gladly give things away to her kids or grandkids. My mom told me in no uncertain terms that I was to accept anything my grandmother offered me. Even if I didn't want it. That was we could get it out of her house. And we could donate it or throw it away. The food situation was a nightmare. Though, her pantry was overflowing, so she kept the extra food in the laundry room. And it was mostly expired. After she passed, we found an old can of pineapple that had exploded and left dried up. Blackened pineapple bits on the bottom of the shelf above the can. She had more expired bottles of salad dressing in her fridge than I can count. And I never once saw her eat a salad. My mom and relatives would sneak things out of the fridge 1 or 2 at a time to throw away. And hope my grandma didn't notice. My wife and I struggle against hoarding instincts because the hoarding is never about what's being hoarded. And we both have issues from childhood poverty and eating disorders. We've been doing good. I finally got her to agree to get rid of some ancient, bad quality furniture that we have no space for. We each have a ton of clothes we struggle to decide about because where we grew up you were expected to never wear the same outfit twice. But as adults in a new city we learned how stupid that mentality is. Lol. We've thrown out or given away so much over the last few years, and all I can think of is how much more I want to get rid of. She kicked you out? Wow. Is there anyone to take care of her now? My grandma is like this as well. December 2020. We visited for Christmas. She put a soda in a fountain cup from a restaurant in the fridge. Thanksgiving 2021. I watched her drink it. I know it was that soda because she said so, and it was in a 2020 Christmas cup. Nauseated face. I feel for you. Hoarding isn't just a mental illness. It's a social disorder, emo. It affects everyone around the person. Makes both the environment and the relationship toxic. Often the only options for loved ones are to accept it or go LC&C. It is such a powerless feeling to deal with a hoarder. Man, what is it with our grandmas? Grandpa would wait for her to go visit her sisters in the neighboring state. Then he'd clean the hell out of the refrigerator. The light didn't even hit the first shelf because of all the stuff on it. Never mind the other two shelves. You couldn't see past the stuff in the front of the shelf either. Grandpa would have a heyday cleaning it out. And when he was done, the light did reach the third shelf. Crazy. I so feel your pain, frustration. Edit. I agree with you, Asher the atheist, in regards to food insecurity during the Great Depression. I've said it before, but my brother always said my mother was a bag lady with a house. I was tasked with clearing the house while she was in hospital and found boxes and boxes of the envelopes from telephone bills. In date order, the bills themselves. Well, they were scattered throughout the 3-story house. Be very glad that you were kicked out of there. My wife and I lived with her grandma for a year, helping to take care of her. She wasn't a hoarder, but there was so many other things going on. Dementia was starting to set in and she had other health issues. She eventually was put in a nursing home. We moved the hell out and never looked back. My grandfather was a hoarder. My aunts took ages to clean that house out. I hope you can get her place cleaned up before she dies.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.